Hey folks, I'm Tennessee Brando for MeidasTouch. So Richard Barnett, or as we say in my part of the world, Barnett, was found guilty on all 8 charges for his involvement in the January 6th insurrection. Now, if you forgot who Richard Barnett is, he is the doofus who went into Nancy Pelosi's office and posed with his foot on her desk. His lawyer is on television in what seems like an episode of Better Call Saul. I felt like I was watching Better Call Saul for a minute because he's sitting there explaining why his client did what he did. And according to his attorney, Mr. Barnett was pushed in. He got there. He could not imagine what was about to unfold. He had no idea what was about to happen. And the doors were just open, and he just kept walking closer, and they pushed him in, and he fell in. And then when he gets inside, he's got a decision to make. What am I going to do? He can stay or he can go. He decided to stay and, hang around for some political reasons. And he went in Pelosi's office and he put his foot on her desk. But yeah, this man is actually doing a really bad ripoff of Saul Goodman trying to explain this lunatic. And it's pretty cringeworthy to watch, but let's watch it and then we'll talk about it.
His defense was essentially the truth. He went to the Capitol on January 6th for political purposes. Neither he or anyone who went there could have ever anticipated what would take place that day. He, like many other people, made his way to the walls of the Capitol. Crowds started to push and surge. At some time where he was, the Columbus doors were opened on the east side of the Capitol. He was pushed in.
He came through open doors, doors that were already open.
He came through open doors. We played for the jury the fact that the doors are open from the inside by people who were entirely disconnected from Mr. Barnett. He was at some point pushed through. He had made it through a few different open and closes of the doors, but the surge around 2:43, he was pushed through, he fell in, and then after he got in, he stood up and he had a decision to make. And the decision was, should I stay or should I go? He chose to stay. And he, like many other people who were there, began to parade around for political purposes. At some point, he ended up in Speaker Pelosi's suite of offices. He put his feet up on a desk.
You know, when it comes to the insurrectionists on January 6th and the people who continue to support them, I wish they would make up their mind as to which side of the fence they're on, because they go back and forth. One minute they say that it was a peaceful protest. They had no idea it was going to happen. They just went there to protest the results of the election because they felt they were robbed, and then it turned into something they couldn't imagine. Or then they'll say, well, it was Black Lives Matter and Antifa doing it to make us look bad. We were all just being peaceful. But then if you push them enough and you corner them enough and you get them upset enough, then they turn the narrative and they say, oh, we had every right to be there. We had every right to protest. We had every right to bust down those doors. Those was our doors. We had every right to go into the Capitol. It was our Capitol. He had every right to be in Nancy Pelosi's office. It was his office. And we'll do it again. That's what's killed me about this entire time, is these people have went back and forth, back and forth. But I remember before, and I've said this in previous videos, as a matter of fact, my first video for Meidas was talking about January 6th. And I'm sure I've said this at some point along the way, but before we ever got to January 6th, they were saying, we're going to go do that. Then they went and did that, and it looked so terrible on TV, I guess they realized we looked like a bunch of idiots. And from time to time, they try to backtrack. And then if you get them mad enough, they turn it back around and suddenly they're happy and they're proud that they were insurrectionists. They can't make up their mind which side of the aisle they want to be on. But we have got to hold these people accountable, and we got to keep their feet to the fire no matter what they say. They are and were domestic terrorists. They did try to overthrow an election. They did storm the Capitol. They did it carrying Trump flags, don't tread on me flags, Confederate flags. As a matter of fact, the American flag was probably the least seen flag that day. And we cannot let them off. You know, it's funny because I know this may be a very elementary analogy to make on this one here, but Charles Manson went to his grave denying any involvement. He didn't murder anybody in the Tate LaBianca murders. That was always his defense. Yet he was found guilty for his involvement in the murders, for brainwashing his flock into doing it. He was still held accountable for it. Went to his grave saying, I didn't do it. I never murdered anybody. That's what he always said. And yet we held him accountable. We said, hey, look, he's crazy. The guy's a loon. He brainwashed these people into doing this. We got to keep this man behind bars. And I say that's what needs to happen to every politician, including Donald Trump, who incited this and who caused this to happen on our nation. It's one of the most embarrassing, humiliating days that we've ever had. My blood boils every time I watch replays of it. Every hearing that I sat through of the January 6th hearings was so cringeworthy, and I got so angry watching it. And for those out there going, well, this is just political theater, and this is just them, trying to make us all look bad. No, that's what happened. They're just showing us the replay. Okay, they're just showing us what happened, and we're having to relive it over and over again, and we're having to hear these Saul Goodman wannabe attorneys over and over again talk about how that their client was just accidentally pushed into the building. He had no idea what was going to happen. It's funny when you're watching Better Call Saul and you hear him, or you're watching Breaking Bad and you hear him try to defend Jesse Pinkman and his, goofball buddies. It's great entertainment. Bob Odenkirk is one of my favorite actors, and I absolutely love it. But this is real life. And we're seeing this attorney sit here and talk like, well, my client was just pushed in. And I love how he says, but then he had a choice to make. He could have stayed or he could have went, and he decided to stay. He decided to stick around for political reasons. The guy actually says that. That's what's so mind-numbing about the whole thing. Okay, let's just give the guy the benefit of the doubt just for a minute. Let's say that his client actually was pushed in. Let's say that he didn't have no idea what was going to happen, and he just suddenly got pushed in. Well, at that moment, he had the decision to stay or go, and he decided to stay and go put his foot on Nancy Pelosi's desk and pose for the picture. And to me, he looked pretty happy in those pictures, just like Charles Manson looked pretty deranged singing with the girls at the Spawn Ranch. So if we're going to we held Charlie accountable. Sorry, Richard, you got to be held accountable too. That's just how it goes. So folks, I've had a good time making this video. I hope you had a good time watching it, and I hope you will hit that subscribe button here at MeidasTouch and continue to tell everybody about the fastest, best news network in the country. Until next time, I'm Tennessee Brando. You guys keep tuning in. We'll keep telling you the truth.
MeidasTouch is unapologetically pro-democracy. And look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear, the unapologetically pro-democracy gear. And hey, while you're at it, make sure you check out my favorite shirt and one of our most famous designs. It wasn't rigged, you're just a loser. At store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.